probably New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
We always put the first clue up a little early.
Yeah.
So
it's fun for everyone.
Yes. Welcome to the 2022 5th annual Cozy Up Mystery
MKAL.
Knit Along.
Woo!
Your hosts, Jamie and Sarah.
Yes.
Anyway, if you are just kind of like seeing this and this just popped up, this is a mystery shawl pattern that we are hosting for the month of January.
Is it a shawl?
It's a mystery.
Just kidding, it is a shawl.
It's definitely a shawl.
It's always a shawl.
Definitely a shawl. So this is sort of our little welcome video, as well as every week we're going to put up a tips and tricks kind of video that's going to help you through the clue.
Yeah.
So if you're seeing this, you can go to however you purchased it, whether it's Ravelry or PayHip, and your new clue will be there.
Yep.
You may need to refresh.
Or sometimes check your email.
Yep.
You'll get a notification to your email as well.
Yes, but it has been sent. So it is there somewhere.
Somewhere.
Okay, so we'll want to talk a little bit about, like, we called it Throwing It Back. That's the name of the shawl. And
so I don't know, maybe it came from like that podcast that we did all our questions and stuff, and we got a lot of like past, like, how did we start knitting, this, like all those questions.
like what's your story and your history sort of and how you are where you are. Kind of thing.
And then that kind of brought us to like how we got into the designing and, you know, things that we used as inspiration as we learned how to design stuff even.
Yeah.
You know, some of the stuff
and
we
even
did
just
back
knit
then and
certain techniques and stitches, because we were pretty basic when we started out.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where that came from.
Yep.
So we're going to have, you'll see in the pattern right now, you'll see a little throwback picture to 1988.
1988.
Which is a very big throwback. Katie's here.
Holy.
That's
that's so cute.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
Because there are 4 of us.
I look super happy in that picture.
Oh yeah, Sarah's
just check
thrilled.
it out. I look
love
super
that
happy.
picture.
Isn't that
I
cute?
just love it. That's my favorite picture of you guys.
So you'll see a few kind of throwback things, but that was just for fun. I saw that in my thing and I was like, okay, we're going to throw it right back to the beginning.
Yep, why not?
When our little twin sisters came along.
Yep,
1988.
and I was thrilled.
Yes. So, anywho, let's talk a little bit about, well, we've given lots of information about the pattern already.
What
so
would you have done without us?
Right?
That is true.
I don't know. Would have been, just kidding.
A little calmer.
Yeah,
No, just
exactly. Crazy twin sisters. So we've talked about the yarn. You've seen our yarn. You have your yarn. You're ready to get going.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about clue 1.
Yep. So clue 1 is
in here.
In there.
We're
And we'll
gonna
show it at the end. We won't show anything yet, but once we start rolling our videos of the actual tutorials, is when you'll start seeing bits of the shawl. Clue 1 is probably the most technical.
Yeah, we don't want to say difficult because
it's not difficult.
It's just knits and purls, but it's going to make a beautiful, beautiful pattern.
Yes.
You're going to love it. Persevere through those first 16 rows.
Yeah.
You're going to love it. And we're going to have videos coming up that are going to show you maybe some of the things that might trip you up, possibly.
And also things to keep in mind as you're working through those rows, like each row itself, to go, okay, am I on track?
Yeah.
Do these line up? Is this working out? And I do talk about that.
Yeah.
Just something to kind of check yourself as you're knitting it, so you don't get too far ahead and realize 6 rows back you missed something.
Yeah.
And so I talk about that in the video as well. But yeah, it's the most technical, but it's really, it's so nice. It's so nice. I will say that depending on which you choose for your cast on, we've recommended using a German twisted cast on, which I do show a tutorial for coming up here.
Yeah, a loose.
Regardless of what you choose to cast on with, make sure it's loose. Not really loose, but just don't pull your cast on stitches really tight, because it does start off with a, spoiler, little bit of a rib.
Yeah.
So you don't want your ribbing to be sucked up. You want it to sit nice, and when you block it out, you want to have it, you know, not suck in your
and if you haven't tried the German twisted cast on in general, I highly recommend it. I've switched every tube. Everything with a ribbing. So if you're casting on top down, so it's ribbing. It's a lovely cast.
I don't cast on with long tail anymore. It's just automatic.
And it is long tail in that you need to have a long tail.
Yeah.
You need to have your tail length for your project.
Yeah. It's just one extra little step in your actual cast on that makes it stretchier.
Yeah, highly recommend it. So I would totally give it a try, but if you're getting frustrated, just go ahead. I think actually most of our testers just did long tail.
Yeah.
Because we didn't recommend. Forgot to tell them.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, either or is fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Okay, so you will notice that we have written the pattern for 2 weights of yarn. So for for section 1, it's all good. You don't need to worry. It's all the same. But like when you get to say section 2 and 3, you want to look if there's anything different for fingering or DK. And on section 3, you'll see it's literally split down the middle. The fingering is on one side, the DK is on one side. Yeah. So for me, when I'm knitting, I was
highlight
knitting
your DK rows.
Yeah, or just go ahead and just I just scribbled out on mine. I just like scribbled out the side I wasn't doing.
And you'll notice if you do watch the tutorials coming up here in this video that I even did that because I was like, oh, this doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And then Jamie's like, you're
reading the wrong side.
I'm like, great.
So be conscious of which one you're doing.
Yeah.
And I do want to say that, actually, I don't say that. Maybe I won't say that right now. Never mind. It'll be written in the pattern.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say it at the end.
Yeah,
I'll say it at the end. I don't want to spoil that for the first clue. But if you've read through it, you'll see. But
yeah. Never mind. We'll talk about that next week.
We'll say a few more things at the very end of this video too when we show you clue 1. Yeah. So I think that's it. Are they ready? Are we ready to get going?
I think so. I think we're ready. So here is your spoiler warning. It's going to start off the first section 1 of clue 1, then 2, then 3. So if you are just watching the tutorial section by section, you won't get spoiled for the very end of it, until the end.
But maybe I would even recommend give it a go.
Give it a
go without looking at the video.
Yeah.
Because you will see what section 1 looks like right away. You're going to see as essentially
the full
what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Because so we've broken it into sections. Clue 1 has 3 sections, 1, 2, and 3. So, but we'll be back. Watch the tutorials if you need it, and then if you want to see what the whole clue 1 looks like, scroll to the end, and you'll see us. We're gonna come and spoil it.
Yep.
Okay. We'll see you in a little bit. Happy knitting.
Okay, so this is the cast on that we used, and we like it because it makes a bit of a stretchier cast on. It's very similar to long tail. So we're going to start by going in and pulling back. Okay, and yeah, this one is also really good for like a toque brim, anything that's ribbed, like whatever kind of ribbing, because we're not casting on in pattern, but it just makes it stretchier for any sort of ribbed work that you're doing. So similar to long tail cast on, we're going to have our tail coming out towards us, and then we're going to go, so a long tail cast on, you're going to come up and go through. In this one, we're going to go underneath both, back in through the opposite way of your thumb, kind of hooking that top yarn. Then we're going to scoop, go back through, and then you're going to come back through in between where you went in on your thumb, around, and let go. So again, we're going to go underneath both, back through, scoop, and then we're going to go back through kind of from the underneath where you went in originally, and pull. And this, you don't want to pull super tight there either, just regular tension there. So again, under both, back through your thumb, around your pointer finger, and then back through kind of from the bottom and around. Under, back through, around your finger, back through your thumb. And feel free to slow this video down. And there are lots of good tutorial videos on YouTube as well that you could check out for the German twisted cast on. Okay, so section 1. Woo! I'm so excited. So this section, it looks a little trickier than it is. The biggest thing that I can say about this, which we've probably mentioned before previously in this video, is as you're working it up, 99% of the time, your knits should line up and your purls should line up. As you know, this eyelet section is opening up. Obviously, we're going to be doing some decreasing in there, but for the most part, if you're not knitting on your knits or you're not purling on your purls, you're probably a little bit off. So just keep that in mind as you're working this part of the pattern. Like I said, some of that isn't true when you're getting into the lace section, but for the most part, this fan section, you kind of want all these to to keep lining up. So it just gives you a little check to say like, oh, am I off? This didn't line up. Did something happen? Let's go back and check. All right, so I've worked through most of this section, but what I wanted to show you guys was starting at row 13. And this is the exact same for the DK and the fingering version. Right now I'm working on the DK version, but again, like I said, it's the exact same pattern. So I've worked across row 13 to the last 18 stitches, and now we're gonna work the last 18 stitches of this pattern. And then this, we'll talk about the SKPO and kind of how you're working these, you know, yarn overs, knit two togethers, all that, which is up at the beginning as well. So we are to last 18 stitches. So we are going to purl one, which again, my purls are lining up and my knits are lining up. Purl, knit, sorry, I lost my row. Now we're going to purl two together because we've been bringing these in. Once you start working through the pattern, you'll see why I'm purling two together there. Okay, so now we are going to purl two together. Sorry, keep looking at the wrong row. Where am I here? Purl two together. So we are going to knit one. And actually, before I continue on, because I'm at the open bracket, yarn over, knit two together, close bracket times two. So let's just talk about that for a minute, because on these rows above, we have the beginning of your row, and then we have the star. And then we go to the last star, and it's repeat star to the last 19 stitches. But within this big repeat, so purl one, knit one, purl two together, purl one, knit one, blah, 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 all the way to the star, we've also got bracketed repeats on the inside. So how those work is we are going to, so the beginning of the repeat, purl one, knit one, purl two together, purl one, knit one, open bracket, yarn over, knit two together. We're going to do that twice. So purl one, knit one, yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, knit one, yarn over, SKPO, yarn over, times two. So we're going to do that again, SKPO, yarn over, knit, purl two together, knit one, knit one, repeat. Go back up to the other star, the beginning star, and you're going to work that again with those doubles on the inside as well. And we probably have talked about that at the beginning of this video, but I just wanted to show you visually how those work. So again, the big repeat, but you've got little mini repeats inside of your big main repeat. All right, so back to wherever I was. So now we are going to 13, yarn over, knit two together, and we're going to do that twice. So yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, knit three. Okay, so knit three. Now we're going to yarn over SKPO. So yarn over, we're going to slip one, knit one. Now you want to be careful because sometimes that yarn over from before your first slip stitch, which is this stitch right here, you don't want to accidentally catch your yarn over and pull it over. So sometimes I'm just going to move these stitches around. Sometimes your yarn over can be sitting kind of on top of that slipped stitch there. You just want to make sure that you're only pulling the slip stitch over top and leaving that yarn over in its place. So that, I'm just going to work that back out, and I'm going to show you that again. So we've done our yarn over, knit three. Now we're going to yarn over, and then the SKPO, which is a slip one. And then we're going to knit one. See how I hold my thumb on that slipped stitch? Just so that if, you know, my yarn over can cut right over top of it. So I always just bring my yarn to the front, slip my stitch. When I go to knit this, before I wrap my yarn, I just hold my thumb on that slipped stitch so that my yarn over doesn't catch it. And then it's easier to just pull that stitch over without worrying that your yarn over is going to come with it or go over instead of the proper slipped stitch. Okay, so that was, where are we here? 13. Yarn over SKPO. Now we're going to do a yarn over and an SK2PO. This you won't see often in the pattern, and it will be bolded because the way that my increasing and decreasing on the side works, there should be a knit two together on this end, but it hits that original SKPO. So we've turned it into an SK2PO to keep the bias working and keep the pattern working. So we are going to yarn over. Now we are going to, we're going to slip one, knit two together. Again, holding your thumb on that slip stitch so your yarn over doesn't go over top of it. We're going to knit those two together. And then we're gonna pass that one slip stitch over. And now we are at the end of the row, which is a, whoopsies, knit one, but I'm gonna back this out and I'll show you that one more time, that SK2PO. If you find that you've made a mistake and have to tink out either the SK2PO or the SKPO, what you wanna do is take that stitch that you have pulled up and over and dropped off, the past slip stitch over, you wanna pick that up. You wanna just put it back on your needle, kind of around onto the other side of your knitted one, and that one was a knit two together, so we're going to tink out those two stitches together, and then we're going to place that slip stitch back over if you have to tink it out. So again, we are going to slip one, knit two together, and then pass that slipped stitch over and knit one to finish off the row. All right, so now, we've just done 13, I've gone through 14, and now we're gonna just talk a little bit about 15. With this one, you just need to be a little careful because we have a purl two together, and then we've got a yarn over next to it with a knit two together. So we're gonna talk about that. And then at the end of the repeat, I have also an SKPO yarn over next to a purl two together. So I'm going to talk about yarn orientation a little bit here, and just so you get those yarn overs in and don't accidentally miss putting a yarn over in there, because it's quite easy to do when you're going from purls to knits and having a yarn over in between. So I've worked through the majority of this row. I'm going to end, or no, I'm going to, okay, where am I here? So essentially I've worked purl one, knit one. Now I'm about to do my purl two together. So this is where I'm starting here, is the purl two together, and I'm going to work through the rest of the repeat here and have a little and tell you a few things about it. All right, so I've done my purl and my knit, and now we are going to purl two together. So purl two together as normal. Now we've got a yarn over and a knit stitch. So essentially you don't really need to move your yarn, because as soon as you go to do your first knit two together, you're going to create that yarn over. You don't want to bring it to the back and then bring it around again. You can, it just makes a bit of a bigger hole. I mean, that is an option. I find that it makes almost just a bit too big of a hole. So when I'm coming off a purl, going to some knits and have a yarn over in between, I'm going to leave my yarn in the front, knit two together, and that creates the yarn over stitch there, just like that. So that's the first yarn over, knit two together. We're going to do that again, yarn over. So there's the yarn over, knit two together, and then we're going to yarn over and knit five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, counting with Sarah. And now we are going to yarn over and SKPO. So slip one, knit one, holding that slip stitch like what I talked about from the last row, and knit one and pass that slip stitch over, making sure to leave our yarn over there. And again, bring our yarn to the front, SKPO. There's your yarn over, slip stitch, knit one, pass that slip stitch over, making sure your yarn over stays on, and yarn over. So that brings us to the end of, not the end of the repeat, but so we've SKPO, yarn over, SKPO, yarn over. Now we have a purl two together. So our yarn needs to come to the front to make the purl two together, but we also tend to bring our yarn to the front as to make our yarn over. But in this case, you do have to come back around one more time and make that full loop. Put the yarn over on the needle before we make that purl two together stitch. So there we go there, and now we have our yarn over in there. So again, let me just take this back out. We've worked our yarn over, SKPO, and the end of that little bracketed repeat is another yarn over, bringing our yarn to the front. But because we have a purl two together here, we can't just purl it, because then there's no yarn over created there. So again, we're all bring it to the front to make our purl 2 together, but wrapping it around to make sure we get that yarn over stitch on the needle here and our purl 2 together. Okay, so this is section 3, slip stitch waves. So first of all, I'm just going to talk a little bit about doing a slip with yarn in front and changing out your color. So this next row is done with my CC, but whenever I have a slip on with yarn in front at the beginning, I don't even pick that up. I just do my slip with yarn in front, bring my working yarn to the back, go to do my next stitch. That's where we're going to drop this one, and we are going to pick up our CC and just start knitting.
Row 5.
This is row, yeah, row 5. Oh yeah, I don't have my way around that one.
Which is just knit across.
Which is, yeah, so
same as row 1.
It's just how I slip with this one, moving that yarn around and then picking up. And I'll work across this row, and then when I go to do my next row, I'll show you what I do to bring this yarn back up and what I do with the tail from my CC.
7.
Okay.
With main color. You've done your CC.
Okay, so now, so I put in my CC row here, and we've broken our CC. And so this is what I mean. And again, it's the same thing. Yes, we're dropping our CC, but to slip that first stitch with yarn in front, you slip it with the CC and then go ahead and pick up your MC. So row 7, so we're going to slip with the yarn in front, knit front back. And now with this row, you've worked across almost in garter, but you've got every once in a while these 3 stockinette stitches all together. These are always going to be your slip stitches. So if you are off and you're slipping one of your garter bumps, then you know you've gone off. So knit front back. Now we're going to slip 3 purlwise with the yarn in back. So we're going to keep our yarn in the back, and we're going to.
No, you're going to knit 4 first. You're on DK.
Oh, I'm reading. Okay, I see.
Knit 4. You're going to knit 8 actually.
Yes. So I am. Sorry, I was looking at the fingering one, and I'm doing DK. Okay, so we're going to knit front back. We're going to knit 4, and then we're going to start our repeat, which is knit 4, slip 3 purlwise with yarn in back, and knit 3. So we'll knit our first 4. Okay, so we've done our slip, our knit front back, and our first knit 4. Now we are going to go into the repeat, which is, we're going to knit 4. Okay, and now we've come to our stockinette, 3 stitches of stockinette, and we are going to slip those 3 purlwise with yarn in back. So we're going to go 1, 2, and 3, and then knit our last 3. Now, right here, I just want to make mention that you don't want to pull this super tight and squinch up these 3. You want to leave that nice and loose so that it's not too tight behind these 3 stitches that we're slipping, because we're going to slip them quite a ways up. As you can see down here, they do, you know, go up quite a few rows. So again, so finish that repeat, which is slip 3, then knit 3, then we're going to knit 4, and then slip the next 3 stitches purlwise with our yarn in back. And we're going to work that all the way across. And again, you just want to make sure that you're slipping your 3 stockinette stitches. And if you get off and end up starting to slip one of these garter bumps, then you know you've gotten off count somewhere. So just to kind of keep that in mind.
You're on.
All right, so now with row 8, we are going to slip with yarn in front. Sorry, I always just have a habit of doing that. Slip with yarn in front, and now we're going to purl 2. And then to start the repeat, we're going to purl 3. And we are going to now slip 3 purlwise again, and this time with our yarn in front, which is where it already is. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then purl 4. And again, here, you just don't want this next stitch to be super tight, so you don't really want to pull that stitch too tight there, because again, like I said, we're going to be carrying that up throughout the next part of the pattern. Okay, so now we are on to row 11, where we're going to work across these slip stitches that we've done. And I've already gone ahead and slip with yarn in front, knit front, back, and knit 6 to open up our repeat, which is going to be knit 3, cross right, slip 1 with yarn in back, cross left, knit 2, repeat. So let's go ahead and do that. So we are going to knit our first 3. And now we are going to be working our cross right over the next 2 stitches, which will be one of your main color and one of your CC. So cross right, insert right needle into the second stitch on left hand needle, and then knit without removing it. So we are going to knit that stitch and then not remove it. Then we are going to knit the first stitch and slip them both off at the same time. So we're going to go in and knit that first stitch and slip them off at the same time. And what that does is it just crisscrosses it over. So it pulls that slip stitch over one and moves the main color into the center. Okay, then we're going to slip 1 with yarn in back because we're not quite done with that stitch yet. And now we are going to cross left. So we are going to insert our right needle into the second stitch on the left needle through the back loop. So again, we're going to go into the white stitch, or excuse me, the main color stitch from the back into the back loop. We are going to knit that stitch, bring it through and not slide it off. And then we are going to knit the first stitch through the back loop as well, and then slip them both off. So then we're going to go into your CC through the back loop. Sorry, I'm just trying to grab that mohair stitch. Whoopsies.
I had to make it difficult for you.
Yeah.
And add mohair. Do as we say, not as we do.
Yeah.
Tell Granny, tell.
There we go. And we are going to now knit that stitch and slide them both off at the same time. And again, that just swaps your CC over one, brings an MC in, slipping the CC, brings an MC over, and moves your CC out to the edge. I'll show you that again. So we are going to finish out that repeat by knitting 2 and back to the beginning of the repeat, which is knit 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to cross right.
Do it nice and slow.
Okay. So we're going to insert our needle into the next stitch, which is your CC, and we're going to knit that stitch without slipping it off. And then we are going to knit the first stitch, which is our MC stitch. And we're going to knit that stitch, slipping them both off together. Then we will slip with yarn in back, the middle CC stitch, and now we are going to cross left. So we are going to insert our needle through the back loop into our MC stitch that's next. We are going to knit that stitch without sliding it off. Then we are going to knit our CC stitch through the back loop as well, knitting that stitch and sliding them both off together. Okay, let's do that one more time. Finishing out the repeat with a knit 2, starting the repeat with a knit 3. Whoopsies. And now we're going to cross right. So we're going to insert into the first stitch, or excuse me, the second stitch, knit that stitch, going into the first stitch, knitting that stitch, sliding both off together, slipping with yarn in back, the stitch in the middle, and now across left, which is inserting into the MC stitch through the back loop, slipping into the first stitch, the CC stitch, also through the back loop, and sliding them off together.
Hooray! Okay.
All right, here it is.
We're here. We are about to show
Spoiler.
clue 1, and then I can show, I want to say a couple things about clue 1.
I'm
So
gonna
Sarah,
sneak this up.
yeah, this is finished. So Sarah's just going to show the little tippy tip.
Little tippy tip.
Because it looks like...
I'll show a wee bit more every little week.
Every week.
Oh, look at those colors.
But there's Sarah's. That was in the Creative Knitter set. So I will show you now. We're not showing you. We've talked a lot about the yarns we used. We used Kim's set. I have
Sorry,
one
I'm
done.
looking like that because she just pulled her needle out.
Well, it's because it's so long. It's
I know.
falling off my needle.
You need a longer cord.
Okay. Well, we'll say that this one that I'm working on that you're seeing in the tutorials is not following really the yarn weight.
This is the third one that we're knitting to kind of do.
This is the fourth one, Sarah.
This is the fourth one between the two of us.
Because Katie is doing hers along with you guys.
Yeah.
So this one.
Jamie's doing a third one ahead of you guys.
Yeah. Because, so I just kind of grabbed what was in stash. So it's definitely like worsted or almost Aran weight.
Yeah.
So it's turning out really big, but don't worry about it. You'll get the gist. Are you ready? I haven't woven my ends in, and I still have about 4 rows to go, but you'll get the gist of it.
Yeah. Oh,
so here is clue 1.
There it is.
Oh my gosh. Isn't this so pretty?
Oh, like I just love, and this is what I mean, like with that first part of the clue, if you're following your knits and pearls, which I talked about in the tutorial part of this,
yeah,
you know, it is quite easy to keep on track with this if you kind of follow your stitches, right? So
we had a joke that we were throwing it back to Lacey's eggs. If you remember, if you've been around since the beginning, our very first mystery knit along had a section that
was a very
we got difficult. A little flack for. I didn't know, but it was our first one, and some loved it.
I love lace. And I love lace so much.
We're so mad because it was tricky.
It was tricky. It was very tricky.
It was tricky.
It was, and I was just like, "Ooh, that's pretty," and then I just put it in.
So we say this is actually not as technical as Lacey's eggs.
Not even close.
So follow along row by row, take it easy, and you'll be good. And then we go into the slip stitch waves.
Yeah.
Which are just
I think that's going to be one of my favorites.
I want
out of the whole shawl.
Yeah, I want to pull this and put it into other designs too.
Yeah.
So what I was kind of whispering to Sarah about in the beginning is I wanted to say that your stitch count doesn't change for clue 1. So you will be working along the same stitch count. I will add that because one of our testers just said they'd like to see it at the bottom. Just to know that you're on track. Yeah. It doesn't change for clue 1.
Because it is handy going through this lace section to count every right side row. Yeah. Like once you're done a right side row, count and make sure you're still at your stitch count.
Yeah. But you have a little rest in here. So this is section 1, section 2. Then it says repeat section 1 and 2 again. That's what that means. Okay, and then I do want to make a mention when you go to section 3, here's your first part. And then it says work these 16 rows 4 more times, and then it says switching out your CC. So that's what this means. The order is C1, C2, C3, C2, C1. And then there's a few more rows I still have to work to finish off clue 1, but there it is.
There it is.
And I tell you, I've been wearing mine. Like I made the ginger snap one in DK.
Mm-hmm.
I've been wearing it wherever I can wear it, like where no one will care. Like,
yeah.
Safeway.
Yeah.
Nobody there knows or cares what I'm wearing for knits.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
But not on like, well, anyway, we don't have knit night right now, but I wouldn't wear it to knit night if I was going to knit night. But anywho, there's clue 1. Yeah. So we
enjoy, have fun.
Yeah. We'll see you back here next week.
Yeah.
For clue 2.
Woo.
Okay, see you later.
Happy knitting.
Happy knitting.